All right. Journalist Barry Weiss, who is one of the journalists going through the Twitter files, said, "My jaw hit the floor when she found out who had been censoring the Twitter files." So back to this story. This is regarding information that new owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, promised, showing how Twitter had censored content in the past. We already covered the first dump extensively on Friday. These three had a party.
Four.
Yeah, all of you guys
6.
were, I was away, and they had a Twitter reveal party.
Yeah, so
that was fun.
So people were saying last night during our live show, the next round of Twitter files is being dumped right now. And I had to say, no, they're not being dumped right now. It was just like a supplemental update, but an important one.
So we took our sweet time to read it over today, and we are ready to talk about it today with you. Now, Elon Musk had said the second round would come on Saturday, so we all waited and nothing ever came. But now the journalist who went through the files and presented them to us, Matt Taibbi, explained why. Here's the thread. I apologize, it's hard to show tweets on a screen. I did my best, so let's go through it. He's calling this Twitter Files Supplemental. He says, on Friday, the first installment of Twitter Files was published here. We expected to publish more over the weekend, and many wondered why there was a delay. Yes, we did. We can now tell you part of the reason why. On Tuesday, Twitter Deputy General Counsel and former FBI General Counsel Jim Baker was fired. Among the reasons, vetting the first batch of Twitter files without knowledge of new management. So what does that mean? It means that the first round of Twitter files that we all saw was censored. So this is, that's very meta, right? Because this is a story about how Twitter is censored, and that information was censored. Okay, explain that. Let's go on.
When we did the initial coverage, that makes sense because remember they said, hey, we got to go through and do some more fact checking, and it ended up being way later than what we were told.
Yes, and that sounds strange to me because I was feeling like if they don't have it all, don't say. Like you're not ready to go to press, don't go to press. No one was pressing them for this deadline. They gave it to us, and then we all kind of waited there for an hour. So I don't know, that was strange to me. There's a couple other things that are strange, but I want to wait on that. Okay, and he said it was being censored. Next tweet. The process for producing the Twitter files involved delivering to two journalists, Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi, via a lawyer close to new management. However, after the initial batch, things became complicated. Over the weekend, while we were both dealt with obstacles to new searches, it was Barry Weiss who discovered that the person in charge of releasing the files was someone named Jim. When she called to ask Jim's last name, the answer came back, Jim Baker. Weiss said, my jaw hit the floor. She says the first batch of files both reporters received was called Spectra Baker emails. So they were like, oh, maybe that should have tipped us off for something. They already knew who Jim Baker was. They didn't have to then go look him up. That's why she was like, no, it can't be that guy. How can that be? He continues, Baker is a controversial figure. He had been something of a zealot of FBI controversies to 2016, from the Steele dossier to the Alpha server mess. He resigned in 2018 after an investigation to leaks to the press. The investigation was of him, by the way. He was investigated during the Trump years for leaking some things to the press. The news that Baker was reviewing the Twitter files surprised everyone involved, to say the least. New Twitter chief Elon Musk acted quickly to exit Baker on Tuesday. Reporters resumed searches through Twitter file material, a lot of it today. The next installment of the Twitter files will appear under Barry Weiss's tag. Stay tuned. So this is interesting. Now, he obviously was not charged with anything in these investigations of a leak, so we don't really know much about that. But it's interesting because this Baker guy has been there all along at Twitter, and no one thought to check what he was up to while he was busy handing over documents. Here's a picture of Jim Baker. Did anyone ask why he was holding back information on this project?
I just got these documents. I want to scrub these before you guys release them. I'm going to remove all words related to FBI. Got to cover our tracks.
So here is someone actually asking Elon Musk, like, did you ask him why he did that? And here's his response. He says, in light of concerns about Baker's possible role in suppression of information important to the public dialogue, he was exited from Twitter today. And this user says, was he asked to explain himself first? And Musk says yes. His explanation was unconvincing. Which, okay. What is unconvincing to me is why did he make it through the first round of layoffs in the first place when it's so clear that he worked with Vijaya God on the censorship of material?
Right. Specifically the Biden laptop.
Yes, he was instrumental in that story.
Right.
Does he have an invisibility cloak? Like when they went through layoffs, how did they say, yes, that guy, he's ideologically aligned?
That guy in the lunchroom down there, that guy who worked at the FBI. He's an intelligence guy. He's now working at Twitter. Like, just leave that guy. I'm sure.
Why was he allowed to be? This is just a management question. Like, why was he allowed to be the wall that they had to go around? Does that necessarily
mean that he was worked there? Like, was he an attorney for Twitter? You know, like they had a group of attorneys, and maybe they didn't know that he was who he was. His job description was, and it wasn't. He's not a contracted law firm. He was Twitter deputy general counsel. Wow.
So this is not like it's not like they contracted him through a separate law firm.
Yeah.
I need to check my bank account and see if I work at Twitter too. Maybe I do. Maybe I'm getting paid and I don't know it.
You don't even know about it.
I mean, there's so many questions, you know, and I was reading through a lot of the questions to this response by Elon Musk, like, why did Twitter want him in the first place? Or did the FBI want him in Twitter?
Right.
These are interesting questions that we deserve an answer to. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, Twitter was eager to get the guy. Right. So this is the thing. After he leaves the FBI, like Twitter was happy to have him, happy to bring him on as deputy counsel. Like they wanted this cushy relationship with someone who had access to the intelligence community. And that's incredibly troubling. And he was actively involved in these back channels. This comes back to the Twitter partnership program, the back channel portals that still exist. So he was actively involved in this back channel. So the back channel that I asked Elon Musk about last week on the show was specifically used by Jim Baker to have a communications with the Biden administration inside of Twitter. That's exactly what was happening in that pipeline.
So the New York Post calls Baker the Kevin Bacon of government scandal, especially in the last decade. Here are the pieces that revolve around him, according to the Post. Baker has been featured repeatedly in the Russian investigations launched by the Justice Department, including the hoax involving the Russian Alpha Bank. When Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman wanted to plant the bizarre false claim of a secret communications channel between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin, Baker was his go-to speed dial contact. Baker would later testify about this at Sussman's trial. Baker's name also appeared prominently in controversies related to other Russian-related FBI allegations against Trump. He was, like we just said, forced out and investigated for leaks. He became a defender of the Russian investigations, despite findings of bias and even criminal conduct. He was also a frequent target of Donald Trump on social media, including Twitter. Baker responded with public criticisms of Trump for his false narratives. It says here, despite findings of biased and even criminal conduct. So what I said then about him not being charged on about that investigation may not be true based on this. So put a pin on that. I'll have to double check that. Here is where the Kevin Bacon part comes in. It now appears that most of the figures and institutions involved in Russian collusion claims are within 6 degrees of James Baker. Not only did Baker work closely with the fired FBI Director James Comey and other key figures at the Justice Department, but he was an acquaintance of key Clinton figures like Sussman, who pushed the false collusion allegation. He was also hired by Brookings Institution, which has a curious Bacon-like role in the origins and development of all the Russian collusion. None of this means Baker was the driving force of the scandal. To the contrary, Baker earned his bones in Washington as a facilitator, a reliable ally when it came to business of the Beltway. But it's hardly surprising that Baker found a home at Twitter where caution was always warranted in dealing with potentially damaging stories for Democratic interests. So again, this guy has a clear bias for one side. We're not saying that he was creating scandal, but he absolutely had a conflict of interest that should have caused him to recuse himself from anything revolving around the Twitter files, and he did not. So, when the movie of this is made later, we had a discussion this morning, and I put it in the newsletter, is that this guy will be a key figure in the movie about this and how this, so we saw Benedict Cumberbatch as, who the hell was he? In the Brexit movie.
I don't remember his name.
He was that dude, right? We saw Christian Bale as who was he in the fallout of the mortgage? Yes. Okay. So this guy is going to have that type of movie. And I wanted to ask everyone else who you think will play him, because this will be an important movie. My vote is for Michael C. Hall from Dexter.
I think that'd be a good one.
This is who.
After seeing his picture, I just posted Bradley Whitford. I think he looks a lot like him.
I don't know who that is.
Do you have my laptop or no?
You would if you saw him.
Did we solve that? No, we didn't. Sorry.
Okay.
I saw someone hopping in the chat, or I saw someone moving my mouse around. I thought you guys fixed that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Grimm's vote was C. Matt Ross. I wasn't familiar with this actor, but I can see it. Yes. I welcome your contributions in the chat. David just said somebody.
Bradley Whitford from The West Wing.
Don't know that person.
You don't know The West Wing?
You would.
No.
Bradley Whitford. He was. I forget what role he played.
Let me Google it.
Yeah, it's on my. But
I can Google it myself.
My vote was Zoe Saldana, just to woke the shit out of it, but nobody took on that.
I'm gonna give that a no. Oh yes, to Bradley Whitford. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You had no vote. You were too busy today?
I was too busy prepreparing for the show. Sorry.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
I also
but I liked your Michael C. Hall. I think it was a good one.
Oh, thank you.
Or Danny DeVito.
No. No. Or the guy who is currently playing John Mayer in Mayer, the Prime Minister of England.
John Major?
Sorry, I got him confused with the rock star. John Major. That actor who's playing him in The Crown, I thought was really good. Could also do this. I can't remember his name. Anyway, that was a fun little game around this not fun story.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at Redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to Redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.
Know what you think of that in the chat.
That's right. We got more news to get to. We're going to talk about Saudi Arabia and the murder of a journalist. And will anyone pay for that? The murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
You say it different every
time.
I
say it? I try.
It's Khashoggi, I believe.
Khashoggi. I try. Anyway, we should not mar his name. We're going to talk about that story. It's an unbelievable update. But first...